One. Welcome back, Cowboys Nation. Today is Wednesday, January 17th, 2024. We have the full crew today, and for good reason. We're going to be putting the 2023 season of the Dallas Cowboys officially to bed. Um, Bennett, David, and Clayton here, and we're going to be talking about the game, the embarrassment that was this past Sunday against the Green Bay Packers. And we're going to be talking about what's next, just in terms of the team and the organization as a whole. And we're gonna give our input as to who should be back next year, who shouldn't be back, what we should do. We've got a lot of thoughts. Don't know how long this is gonna run for, but um, we had to take a couple days to let our emotions subside because if we had made this Sunday night or Monday, it would have been bad. So bear with us today. We have a lot of things to work through, a lot of things to talk through, and I'm sure that there is a lot of people who have been waiting for this episode, a lot of people who have been preying on our downfall. They'll remain unnamed, but just know that we are on to baseball season. So for those people, read it and weep. Yeah, Stu and I, read it and weep. We're on to baseball season officially. So never forget 2019 Nats, 2023 Rangers. Um, but anyways, um, yeah, boys. Dallas Cowboys lose 48-32 at home against the Green Bay Packers this past Sunday, and what an embarrassment. Just first of all, we all got on this podcast and said we don't see a way that we could lose this game. I think in the back of our heads we all knew that there was a way, and by golly, the Dallas Cowboys figured out how to be the exact same Dallas Cowboys. And that's just ball out in the regular season, be awesome, and same old thing, falter in the playoffs. So I'll just open with that. Just initial thoughts on the game.
Yeah, I mean, you said it. I always had in the back of my head, keep in mind, listeners, we are 22, 22, and 23 years old. The best Cowboy teams we've ever seen, including this year, have all gone down to the Green Bay Packers. And I know the 49ers have beat us in recent memory, but in my personal opinion, the teams that have lost to the Packers have always been better than the teams that have lost to the 49ers, whether it was the Dez catch or the Jared Cook toe tap on the sideline, or even this game. I thought this year we were better than last year, and the original 49ers loss, we were not as good as the Green Bay one, but it sucks. It sucks, and oh, it just sucks. It kind of just ruined all football season for me. I don't think anyone predicted us losing in the manner that we did. It all I kind of saw it as maybe like a last second field goal or a 2-minute drive gone wrong, but to get blown out at home on a standalone playoff game, makes my blood boil, man. It just unprecedented from Cowboys, and just honestly a disgrace. And we saw it with kind of Emmett, Michael Irvin, you name it. Even like some analysts just calling it just pathetic. Like we rolled over for them, and I'm hoping for big change.
Yeah, when you see at halftime, you see Jimmy Johnson give that heated of a rant to Cowboys at halftime, to the world watching, 40 million people watching. And then you see after the game, Emmett Smith, Michael Irvin just talk how bad, how disappointed they were, how mad, everything all in between. It's what we were all feeling. I literally talked about it last week and talked about how I was so confident, and then my confidence, that's a bad thing when I'm this confident about our team that I root for. They always just lose. It goes down in flames, and lo and behold, it happened. I mean, that was the most embarrassing game I've ever watched as a Dallas Cowboy fan. I don't care what anyone says that this is the lowest I've ever been as a fan by far. The first game I remember was the Tony Romo Seattle Seahawks game, and this feels a million times worse than that did. I think I was like 7, 8 years old then.
Yeah.
And it was just absolutely pathetic performance from all around. Dak looked off. Our defense, you put 6 DBs out there the whole time. Everyone keeps talking about. You don't even try and mix it up. You have a safety playing linebacker. You have Damone Clark. You can't even figure out how to make holes or fill holes, excuse me. And you have Aaron Jones, who was hot to end the year. I said that. And then he scores more rushing touchdowns through it all season in one game. And it happened to be a wild card game when they're in the 7th seed and we're a 2 seed. I hate how people are saying that you could see that this is going to happen with our weaknesses. I think that's bullshit. I think, sorry for my language, I think that's stupid because there was not one thing that could tell me that O-line, the Packers O-line I'm talking about, could do that damage to our D-line. Aaron Jones could run for 180 yards and 3 touchdowns, whatever it was, and then Jordan Love, throwing off his back foot the whole time, could just pick apart our secondary. And then he flipped it to the offensive side of the ball, and it was just pathetic. Run game was pathetic. Dak just looked like he was nervous the whole game. He looked off. CD just he gives like, what the hell was that, CD? That performance was just, after you have that season when you're probably going to finish top 3 in the offensive player of the year voting, and you pull that crap, pathetic. Just that's the only word I can think of is pathetic performance. Bye-bye, Dan Quinn. You gave us a couple good years, highest coordinator pay in the whole entire league, and that's a crap you pull. I mean, clearly you were 1 foot in, 1 foot out already. That backwards cap, just now it just makes you look like an absolute loser. Just pathetic performance all around. Micah Parsons had like 2 pressures, 1 sack.
One pressure.
One pressure, and it was a sack, like a holding, whatever. I don't fucking remember, dude. I put that whole game behind me. But just pathetic. Absolutely pathetic with a capital P.
Yeah, it was absolutely, it really was just an embarrassment. There's really no other way to even try to justify it. The Cowboys have had 3 bad playoff losses under Mike McCarthy, but at least with the first 2, they were games that you could at least talk yourself into being like, okay, if 1 or 2 plays go differently, maybe you're in that game. With this game, you were out of it from the opening drive. The Packers won the toss, took the ball, went down the field, punched you in the mouth off rip, and you could tell, literally, you could tell just after that opening drive, 2 dumb penalties, which has been a staple of the Mike McCarthy era that extend that drive. It was illegal contact by Bland on 3rd and 5, which if he doesn't commit that penalty, they go 3 and out, punt. And then what was it, offside neutral zone infraction on DeMarcus Lawrence when they had 3rd and 5, I think, in the red zone, like inside the 10. So, even right there, if you hold them to 3 points, but just besides that, it's just a total and complete, utter, at least from what it appears to the naked eye, just an utter lack of preparation and fight. Stu, you mentioned it, but the chemistry between Dak and CD, I don't know what was going on between them, but you could just tell it was off early. Dak had that look that has unfortunately for us become the all too familiar look of just the scared deer in the headlights look, where you can just tell pretty much off the first possession or 2 what kind of game it's going to be. And that came out, he was off early. You could tell it was going to be a long day. Don't let his final stat line of 400 yards and 3 touchdowns fool you. This team was down 27-0, and it on their last drive of the first half, it took them until the very last play before halftime to even get a touchdown to get some momentum going, to Jake Ferguson. Shout out to Jake Ferguson, by the way, the only player on that field this past Sunday that looked like they actually wanted to be there and actually earned the right to wear the star. So shout out to 87. Really big way to end what was a breakout campaign in his second year. So shout out to Jake Ferg, J-Sep Ferg, our guy. We love him. Shout out to him. But it really pains me to say this because we've loved Dan Quinn for so long. We have. He's done wonders for this defense. But one of the stats, I know we're going to throw a ton of stats out there today, but The first one that I wanted to talk about is that Dan Quinn, we know he used to be the former head coach of the Atlanta Falcons, and his counterparts or guys that he used to work with, and Matt LaFleur and Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan was his OC for a while. LaFleur was on staff. He's now 0-6 against them in his career, whether that be as a head coach or as a defensive coordinator, including 0-3 in the playoffs with 2 losses to Shanahan and now 1 to LaFleur. So maybe I guess what's the old saying, the uh, student becomes the teacher, I guess. Both of his students are, I mean, they own him, which is just insanity. I don't know what he was doing. We were the most man-heavy team in football, and it was working for like 85% of the year. And off rip, we were dropping guys into weird zone looks that we hadn't done all year. Packers guys were wide open. At one point in the game, Romeo Dobbs, who was an undrafted free agent in his second year, had like 102 yards, and CeeDee Lamb, who was crying with Dak Prescott on the sideline, had like 1 catch for like 8 yards. So that was pretty interesting. He had some really, really just unexplainable gaffes, whether that be his fault for the play that was called or if it was a blown coverage. The Luke Musgrave touchdown was inexcusable. There wasn't a Cowboy within 20 yards of him. Romeo Dobbs was wide open all the time. Micah Parsons was dropping into coverage for some reason. You have the best pass rusher in football and you're dropping him into coverage. Just unexplainable, inexcusable. I think, as you know, as you guys said, seems like he had 1 foot in the door, or sorry, 1 foot out the door already. But just the fall off, and I know Spanky that you had a stat about our defense this year under Dan Quinn. So if you just wanted to rattle that off real quick, but this defense deteriorated all year, and Spanky's stat will kind of prove that.
Yeah. So, and dating back to 2021, the year that Dan Quinn took over our defense, these are just the opposing team's points per game in the 6 losses. We've had 6 losses for 3 straight years now. And it just gets scary because these losses normally come against over 500 teams / use a lot of motion / you name it. But in 2021, it was 27.33 in the 6 losses that we gave up. In 2022, we actually did better. Our defense was better, 26.83. This year, it jumped up 7 points, so a whole touchdown worth of points, to 33.33 opponents' points per game against us. Not to mention, there was a couple of plays where I won't go on a tangent, but number 1, who will not be here next year, was
Thank
used
God.
as a, like, why is he playing single high? Why are we playing single high with Jaron Curse as the high safety? Why are we playing off coverage on 3rd and 5s when they're clearly motioning towards that coverage to get that quick run after catch ability their wide receivers can do? It was everywhere you look on Twitter, everywhere, every video that pops up, everyone's asking the same questions: is why were we playing such a soft zone when we were a man-heavy team? Why is Micah Parsons getting fucking, excuse my French, pass coverage snaps as a off-ball linebacker all of a sudden on a 3rd and 8? And why is Jaron Curse playing middle safety when he has never done it? Unless like Malik Hooker did something. I don't know whether why everyone, at first I didn't even really notice this, but the commentators kept bringing it up, being like, oh, Dak and CeeDee's body language looks pretty off to each other. Like, how does the wide receiver 1 of fantasy football, but I mean, he had one of the best, I guess, wide receiver 2 seasons, in your MVP caliber quarterback, fall out of sync the week before a home playoff game against a 7 seed? It's just, I just don't know how a week 19 issue gets brought up after losing after getting the 2 seed of the NFC. I'm just confused by this whole situation, honestly. But yeah, DQ, see ya. Hopefully he gets a job somewhere. Go play an NFC team. Go be an NFC team so he could play in the playoffs. Good riddance. You had us the first 2 years, but I mean, I'm done. I want change, and I think the only change we'll get, I guess we'll get to it later, but I think the only change we get is him.
Yeah. And, just to kind of build on that, there is a question that has to be asked now. And it's a question that we kind of alluded to in the regular season after a couple losses. And it's one that I've been dreading. He's one of my favorite Cowboys players of all time. We're very big supporters of this guy. And I think he will be back next year. I just want to preface that. We'll talk about that later, but I think he will be back. But you have to ask the question. It's officially an issue now. Dak Prescott, the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys, is now 2-5 in the playoffs in his NFL career. Um, he has, I think it's the lowest winning percentage of what is it like? I don't know what the exact stat is, but it's like the lowest winning percentage of any starting quarterback with at least like 5 playoff starts in his career or something like that. Just terrible stuff. 2-5. I mean that's not getting it done, and it's an issue that we've seen in big games. We saw it against San Francisco this year, last year, and the year before. We saw it this year, obviously, in the Green Bay game. I just don't know. And again, we will talk about it later, but I just wanted to ask y'all this question because I have my answer. And for the first time in his now, what'll be going into his 9th year next year, for the first time in his 8-year career, I am not a believer in Dak Prescott. And it really pains me to say that. I've thought that he could be the guy to get it done. And I'm not even saying that this game was all his fault because his defense, couldn't stop a Pee-wee football team on Sunday. I mean, it was just that bad. But I don't know, and I'm curious to know what you guys think, but do you guys think Dak Prescott can still take us to where we want to go? My answer as of right now is no.
He could be a Super Bowl winning quarterback, but that team would have to be the San Francisco 49ers around him or the Baltimore Ravens because he's not good enough to carry a franchise there, but he can go to a Super Bowl if he doesn't have to put the weight of a team on his shoulders. And I just think it comes down to he has all the intangibles, he has the arm strength, he has the accuracy. He just doesn't have what we talked about and kind of just before the podcast. He just doesn't have it between the ears to be the Dallas Cowboys quarterback. There's things called in big markets as a Yankees fan. I know this as a Cowboys fan. I know this where some people can handle the lights, some people can't, and I feel bad for him because I don't think if the lights were as bright, he would be a very loved, well-respected quarterback in this league. But as the Cowboys quarterback, when the lights are the brightest, you're always on prime time. You're always having these high expectations cast on upon you. Some people can't handle that type of stuff, and unfortunately, I'm believing in the fact that he can't, and that's the hardest part for me. Is because I've repped him for what 9 full seasons now, or 8 full seasons, and I mean, man, like that's kind of like Terrell Owens said it best. Like that's my quarterback. Like I can't. It pains me to say all this stuff, and hopefully we build a team around him where he doesn't have to just beat God and win us games. But I mean, man, it's you don't get many well-built teams like this Cowboys team, and we just fucking pissed on it, which sucks. And it's been this case since for 27 years, 22 of which I've been alive. We just piss talent away. They go on to other teams, win a bowl. Go on to other teams, have success, and it's like just depressing, man. Just depressing.
How delusional of a fan I am. When it was 20-0 and we had that ball driving down or at midfield, and I was thinking to myself, and I texted y'all this, like, all we got to do is score a touchdown here right before half, and then score right when we get the ball, make it 20-14, just like that. We're back in this ball game. And I think probably 2 plays later, he throws the most obvious slant where all three receivers on the left side are on a slant. Safety, I think Savage caught that pick six, took it to the house, and it's 27-0, just like that. And that's when I realized, like, this team needs to be AT&T Stadium needs to have a nuke dropped on it and just destroyed. This team needs to be destroyed from the inside out. Everyone needs to be gone. Jerry needs to do something to where he can't. I mean, he has to realize at this point, after 27 years, that this is not going to work with him being a GM. He's already made so many mistakes in his career that he's not winning the Super Bowl anytime soon, that he's alive, that he's running this football team. We're not winning the Super Bowl with number 4. You just can't have it. You think that he can lead you to victories, and he can lead you to victories. He can put your team on his back, but he can't do it in the playoffs. The lights are too bright for him. He looks like it. When everyone's talking about it, he looks like he's playing the best football of his career because he was in the regular season. Then when he comes in the playoffs, his feet are moving like crazy. He's inaccurate. He can't throw a ball to save his life, can't hit number 1 receiver, and his number 1 receiver has drops, and then boom, he's panicking. He's like, what am I going to do now? My team's not helping me out. I'm not helping the team out. Our defense can't stop anybody. And that's when he knows that I can't carry this team anymore. We all knew from the get-go, from before that kickoff started, that Dak Prescott was going to have a game like he did, where obviously he threw 400 yards and 3 touchdowns. Well, those didn't matter. I mean, those were padded stats against the second-string defense. Like, the run game was not going to be there, but we still ran the freaking ball on second down every single time. Every time we ran second down, and he got like 4 yards and like 11 carries, whatever it was. It was abysmal play calling. It was abysmal play by Dak. Our O-line couldn't get any run at all throughout the whole season. We talked about it. I gave him the benefit of the doubt throughout the whole entire season, and it just never happened. Pollard, I don't want to blame Pollard because that O-line just looked terrible with the run game, but he was awful, abysmal. He also had like 10 touches for 40-something yards. Like, it was, I don't know what the stat line was because I don't want to look at it. It makes me want to fucking puke. But this team is not good. Dak is a good quarterback. He's just not a Super Bowl winning quarterback. And I agree with Spanky. He would have to be on the Baltimore Ravens or the 49ers where the defense can carry him and he can be a game manager. I hate that Cam Newton was right. Everyone was roasting Cam Newton about these are game managers. And I was pissed because I was like, look, watch Dak Prescott play this year. He is not being a game manager. Well, now he is clearly a game manager, and he can't win a football game in the bright lights unless he plays for the 49ers or Ravens. He is not going to win us a Super Bowl. Jerry Jones is not going to build a team around him to win a Super Bowl. We're going to pay him $50 to $60 million that he wants. We're going to have to pay Micah. We're going to pay CD, and then you're going to have a bunch of bums around them. And what's going to happen? 9-8, 10-7, 8-9, 7-10. Who cares? We're not winning a Super Bowl. Who cares? We can't even get past the divisional round. Past 3 seasons with Mike McCarthy, you win 12 games, 3 straight seasons. First time ever that a team has won 3 straight 12-plus wins and not made a championship game. First time ever. That's Mike McCarthy's fault, it's Dak Prescott's fault, and it's Dan Quinn's fault. Absolutely abysmal, and I hate this team. I hate that I root for them. And just blow up. Like I said, nuke the freaking stadium. Nuke it. Destroy it. Destroy everything. And kill Rowdy, too. Kill that mascot loser.
Yeah, so it's funny that you brought up Rowdy. That was going to be and this actually kind of helps transition us into my last question, just as we finally put a bow on this just disgusting performance that the Cowboys put on Sunday. Is my last question is, I do want to ask you guys who is at most to blame for the Cowboys faltering this past season, and I'll enter a name which has not probably been, if you listen to this podcast, has probably not been at the top of your head. I have a theory. Saw this on Twitter today. But it dawned on me. Maybe we lifted the Jimmy Johnson curse. Maybe we need to lift the Rowdy curse. These numbers under Jerry Jones, since he's been the owner of the Dallas Cowboys, before we induced Rowdy as the mascot of the Dallas Cowboys, we had an 11-2 playoff record and 3 Super Bowls. And then post Rowdy, we're 5-13 in the playoffs with 0 Super Bowls. Maybe Rowdy's the issue. Can Rowdy. See you, Rowdy. I'm officially out on Rowdy.
Out on Rowdy.
This is Rowdy's fault.
Yeah.
No.
But most to blame in all seriousness is Dan Quinn and that defense. Even if Dak Prescott played like God, you would have to literally only punt once. And that's ridiculous for top defense in the league. It's Dan Quinn. He had a foot out the door, and it's the most obvious. You could say, oh, no one on offense looked good. Dak played like dog. Mike was probably just looking at the McDonald's menu, whatever you want to say. But even if Dak Prescott had the defensive play calls, like you could see that Madden art of the defense, our defense couldn't stop them. So why does it matter? The game would be going on to this day. It would just be going on infinitely. We couldn't stop them. And even if Dak Prescott played like prime Mahomes, who we probably haven't even seen yet, he couldn't win this game. I don't think any quarterback in this position could have won that game.
I'm blaming every single person that either wore a Cowboys uniform, coached for the Cowboys, or owns the Dallas Cowboys. But Spanky, also your point, the Packers punted once, and that was because they had that bum as their backup quarterback, Sean Clifford. That's who he made punt. But like I said, every single person is to blame that wears a Dallas Cowboys uniform, coaches, or owns Dallas Cowboys. I'm not putting it above anybody else. I want to say it's Mike McCarthy's fault, but I'm not going to. There's no reason to put it on his shoulders because it is every single person's fault in that whole entire building that cost us that game. Not one person played well. Not one person performed. Not one person had the decency to realize, yeah, the zone might be a bad play. Playing 6 DBs might be the bad play. Having Jerry Jones be the GM might be the bad play. Everything came down to it's everybody's fault, and I'm not putting on one person. I'm putting on the whole entire organization. You have 40 million people watch this game, and you put up that type of performance. It was shocking. It was sad, and it's literally everybody. I'm not putting on anybody's shoulders, but it's literally everybody is equal.
Yeah. I also echo that sentiment. To me, there's no one that's not, or there's no one who can be exempt from the downfall of this team, except maybe Jake Ferguson, because he balled out. He might be like the one pass, but this team and this organization and just this season overall, after taking a couple days to think about it, my perspective is that this team was flawed from the start. We knew coming out of training camp that our issues was offensive line depth and linebackers, and we were basically putting all our eggs into one basket that Leighton Vander Esch was going to do something that he hasn't done his entire career, and that's stay healthy. And shocker, he gets hurt. Linebacking core goes in the gutter. So that falls on the front office, on Jerry and Steven, for not being more prepared and not bringing in anyone capable, whether that be by trade or by free agency. That was clearly our biggest weakness the entire offseason. We failed to address that. So there's your front office to blame. Dan Quinn is to blame because he had, as we've said numerous times, he had one foot out the door. He's already taken interviews. Titans, Chargers, Commanders, don't care. Get out. You didn't care about this game. Yeah, you didn't care about this game, and it showed. Mike McCarthy, Conservative play calling has killed us all season. We come out, we're doing stuff that we haven't done all year, and like running the ball on 2nd and 10 when we know it's not going to work. It's the definition of insanity, is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. And we tried doing things that didn't work all year, like running zone, Dan Quinn's fault, and running the ball in situations where we should have been passing and use a guy that we prodded up as an MVP, potential front runner, and letting him win or lose the game with his arm. We didn't do that. So Mike McCarthy's fault. Dak Prescott's fault. Can't win the big game. Hasn't shown the ability to in his career. We've seen the same story over and over for 8 years. And it's just sad that he might not be the guy to get it done in Dallas. Really thought he was. I was thinking back today, if you had told me during Dak and Zeke's rookie year in 2016 that we would fast forward 8 years later and we'd be losing to the Packers again in the first round of the playoffs without a Super Bowl, I would have said you were absolutely insane. But that, unfortunately, is the reality we live in. And then the last thing at fault that I think is going unnoticed, and I know that we haven't talked about, it's the front office, and this is a guy who we love, so I'm not going to say it's completely his fault, but Will McClay, we are a team that relies very heavily each and every single year on having a rookie class that comes in and makes instant contributions. And this year we drafted 0 instant contributors. Mozzie Smith played 3 snaps on Sunday. That's your first round pick. Luke Schoonmaker is a tight end 2 or 3, depending on what formation it is. Had 1 or 2 touchdowns this year. Deuce Vaughn, non-factor, healthy scratch towards the end of the year. Asim Richards, depth offensive tackle. Eric Scott, 5th-round cornerback that we traded up for, didn't play a single snap on defense this year. There's other guys too that I'm forgetting. Jalen Brooks. Again, I mean, he's like a wide receiver 6, healthy scratch most of the year, did nothing. But for this team to be as reliant upon having rookies come in and be instantly successful, that is a fault on Will McClay and everyone in that draft room. They should know by now that, with how our team is structured and with the holes that we had to fill, that we had to go out in the draft and get guys that could step in and make an impact from day one, and they failed to do that. So I just wanted to make sure that they're not being exempt from this, because when Stu says everyone is at fault within this organization, every single person outside of like the janitors, like the cooks and all that, like shout out to them. They probably do great work and are underpaid. So shout out to them. But everyone in that front office, and like Stu said, everyone that works for this team, whether you be in the front office, whether you're a coach, whether you're a player, you are all at fault. No one is coming out of this unscathed without some sort of blame. That's my little rant piece. Also, one last thing here before we end off this game. One, want to give credit to the Green Bay Packers. They played a great game. Matt LaFleur is a genius coach. Jordan Love is literally light-skinned Aaron Rodgers. It's actually insane watching his like off-platform back foot, beautiful touch fade balls. It's a thing of beauty. That was honestly, if I wasn't a Cowboys fan, I was just watching Jordan Love. Like, I mean, he definitely has all of our respect. He's a very awesome quarterback. He had a great year. No one really talked about it, or at least as much as they should have. But he's legit. And for NFC North fans, I feel really bad for you guys that you are gonna have to face him twice here, because he is here and he is legit. And the Packers are the youngest team in football, and they are here and they're also legit. Second, and this is my last thing here. Spanky, you sent this tweet today about our run game. And when I saw it, I had to laugh because we talked about on this podcast by literally just doing the eye test, right? One of the problems that we identified all year was that this team can't run the ball inside for whatever reason. And we noticed that, especially like in that Carolina game, when we ran Tony Pollard outside the tackles, he had success. He looked pretty good. That, maybe it's some sort of schemage issue. Maybe it's not all on Pollard, but the Cowboys as a football team ran the ball inside 285 times this season, yet only accumulated 142 rushing yards, which comes out to an average of 0.48 yards per carry. For a team that's produced multiple rushing champions and the NFL's all-time leading rusher, that is an embarrassment of a stat. It's just inexcusable. We said coming into this game that Dak was going to have to play the 4 best games of his life for us to even have a chance. And when he didn't do that, he didn't have a run game to fall back on or a defense that claimed they were elite and were a top 5 unit. And this is what you get when that happens. When you build a one-dimensional team and that one dimension fails, this is what you're going to get. So again, no one is exempt. No one's not at fault. Everyone should be ashamed. They should be embarrassed. Podcast Parsons, Micah, please, like, just relax with the podcast. I can't get the Bleacher Report notifications that you're doing a podcast like 2 days before a playoff game. It's not as bad as AJ Brown going to a boxing match in Atlantic City. But we're not an Eagles podcast, but at least we're not the Eagles, because they might be a bigger dumpster fire than we are right now, which is great. But okay, that's gonna be it for Cowboys Packers talk. We need to transition into our next segment, which is looking forward to the offseason. So obviously the next big thing on our agenda is going to be, well, a couple things. We have to figure out who's coming back, who's not coming back, whether that be coaches, whether that be players. And then we also have the draft that'll be in April, which I know everyone in this podcast, we went pretty much Sunday night. We're already ripping mock draft videos. I honestly started looking at mocks. I started looking, I think, like halfway through the third. I think I made the first search on Google like during halftime, and I was like, you know what, there's still a chance. And then after the first drive of the third quarter, it was officially mock draft season. And I know, Spanky and Stu echo that sentiment as well. But just in terms of, without getting too deep into it, because we'll talk about this more in the offseason, but in terms of draft needs, what are we looking at?
I am in the category of kind of wanting to think about this in a long-term view. So I've also been seeing and kind of looking into a lot of offensive tackles. I believe that's kind of where we need to look with what's his face, Tyron being a free agent this year, 33 and injury prone, not reliable. Terrence Steele having a dud of a year, although he's on long-term contract. You got to bring a left tackle in. So I've been seeing, without going into too much detail, like the Oregon State guy, an Arizona guy, and the Washington guy. But I've also been seeing a fair share of linebackers too. So I'm going to ask you guys, right now with Tyron's future being uncertain, what's a bigger need for us right now? Starting left tackle or starting middle linebacker?
Left tackle.
Yeah.
Middle linebacker.
I think it's
I just
both.
can't. I can't watch another game.
Where would you guys want to go with? If, let's say, those are the two positions we can draft in the first round, where do you go?
Tackle, because the class is stronger. At least that's just my initial thought, without getting super deep into like draft analysis, like looking at guys yet. I know that people have been saying all year that this is a pretty weak linebacker class. So I think I would say tackle, because this is a pretty good year to need an offensive tackle. There's a lot of guys. I think there's probably at least like 6 guys that should be in the first round conversation, like pretty comfortably. So
yeah. And even so, like kind of outside the 15, it's like, if you know he's not going to be there with your second round pick, it doesn't matter the grade, you want the guy. So, I mean, I think there's potential to be like, 12 tackles inside the first 40 picks, which is crazy, but that's the biggest position,
Yeah, I agree. I guess I think it's more based off of what we're going to do in free agency, because I think we're going to go out and get a middle linebacker out in free agency than we would drafting, in my opinion. So I guess you would say left tackle. I'm going to float around the idea of I'm going to be sarcastic here and draft Bo Nix. You got to look at him.
That would be a really, if it's,
I would wake up a Bills fan.
Yeah, if it's with the 24th pick, the Dallas Cowboys select Bo Nix or JJ McCarthy, I'm That'll be the last that you hear of me on. That'll be the end of this podcast. So let's just say that. No, absolutely not.
I'm not potting a Bo Nix Cowboys team. Not doing it.
No.
Calling my shot, or JJ McCarthy. Calling my shot right now.
What if we? Well, actually, no. I won't even put that in the universe because that's just a really stupid fan fiction hypothetical. I'm not doing that to myself.
You're saying you're going to say trade up number 1 and draft Caleb Williams?
No. I was gonna say, what if we fire McCarthy, hire Harbaugh? He wants his guy. He goes and trusts JJ McCarthy. Yeah.
Jesus. Yeah. No. I was joking. So I think I guess because the draft class is so weak at linebacker, you're not going to even waste a first round pick on it. I think they're like line and running backs, in my opinion. They're not long lasting unless you're a Bobby Wagner or Devin White. Like you're not like you're a ball hawk all the time. 4 years like running backs. So I think you're going to go out and get a free agent linebacker that's an absolute stud, maybe a little bit older, and then you're going to draft left tackle. I mean, it's going to be, we've drafted first round picks past few years have been just so not lame is the wrong word, just because I mean Tyron and Mozzie past couple of years. You had CD before that, obviously is a huge hit. Tyler, was a big hit, but like you're drafting a left tackle there. Like it's just not like flashy or anything. And I think you got to go the same exact route. You're not going anywhere flashy in the first round, especially at 24. Don't make a crazy jump leap to draft somebody. Just trust left tackle, man. Just do something that makes us have better depth. I mean, you already have Biotis probably leave. Terrence Steele just looked terrible. I mean, and you got Zach Martin and Tyler out there at guards. So, I mean, yeah, you got to go left tackle.
Yeah, I've also seen, just as another hat to throw in the ring here, I've seen the center from Oregon, Jackson Powers Johnson. I've seen him mocked a lot. He has like versatility to play either guard position or center, and especially with what we'll get to in a second. But Tyler Biotis will be a free agent. That'll be one to look at as well. But yeah, it'll be interesting. The one thing that I will say, Stu, to kind of counter you in terms of saying like we'll bring in like a sick free agent. I feel like I can already see it now where the Cowboys are an Oxnard and we didn't sign a linebacker, and Jerry Jones says, well, we already think that we got a free agent addition with DeMarvin Overshown coming back this year. So
like he's not even
that was our
middle
prize free agent.
linebacker.
No, he's also a converted safety. I've seen that's one thing that really concerns me is that I've seen a lot of Cowboys fans on Twitter, like putting all their eggs into one basket, being like, "Oh, like things will be better when Overshown gets back." It's like, well, he's a solid linebacker, but he's not like Bobby Wagner reincarnated. That that just tore his ACL. It's like he's a guy who should be a contributor, but like for us to expect him to have like a Van Der Esch type of like first year, it's probably not going to happen. But so yeah, but okay. Moving into our next part, and this will kick us off. So we're going to do a segment. It's called, we're just going to do In-N-Out just to keep it simple, like the burger. But basically, we have a list of every single coach and position player or position group coach of the Dallas Cowboys. We have them all listed out, and then we have all of our impending free agents this year. So we're going to run through these. Try to make it as quick as possible, but some of them are probably going to be a little bit more lengthy than others. But we're going to run through these, and we're just going to say whether we think they're in or out for 2024 and 5 season. So we'll start with the elephant in the room. It's the head coach, Mr. McDonald's himself, Mike Big Mac McCarthy. In or out?
What I think is going to happen, or what is going to happen? What I want to happen, or
what we think is going to happen? Because we all want him to be gone, obviously.
Yeah,
but
he's going to.
I think we're all on the same page that he will be back next year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what I want to happen is totally different than what is going to happen. He's coming back.
Yeah, the one thing that I will say, and I saw this today on Twitter, shout out to Ed Werder, longtime ESPN guy covering the Cowboys. He tweeted out, and this is just paraphrasing because I didn't put the exact tweet in here, but paraphrasing, he basically said, there will be a meeting between Mike McCarthy and Jerry Jones. It'll probably be within the next couple of days if it didn't happen today. But it should be coming up soon. And just in terms of, we all think that if McCarthy wasn't going to be back, it probably would have been announced already. But the two different things here, just to counterpoint that and just to leave a little bit of room for optimism, not only for us, but for the listeners, if you're frustrated with Mike McCarthy, as we are, the first is that Jerry Jones once fired Jimmy Johnson after winning back-to-back Super Bowls. But then he also suffered through Jason Garrett for almost a decade. And the other thing is that in the last year of Jason Garrett, it was a year in which we did not. I was pretty sure it was the year we didn't make the playoffs, right? 2019, I think, was his last year. 2018 and 19, pretty sure. But he waited, I think, like a good 2 or 3 weeks in between when we were eliminated from contention and when our season ended to when he fired Jason Garrett. So there is a chance maybe he's just letting the fan base cool off before he makes a final decision, whether that be good or bad. So maybe a little bit of room for optimism.
I'm going to counter that. I'm going to disagree. I think he's literally thinking, if I can get Belichick or I can get Vrabel, he's already in contact with them. If he knows he can get them, he fires Mike McCarthy. If he can't, he's keeping Mike McCarthy. I don't even think Jerry Jones knows what he's doing yet.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. And we'll just run through this quickly since we're on the subject. But if we were to fire Mike McCarthy, I know we talked about it in the group chat, but who would you guys want as your head coach?
Vrabel.
Like Vrabel.
Agreed. Yeah,
Or
I think
we're never gonna go that young offensive mastermind. That will never, ever, ever, ever happen under Jerry. We're not taking a first year head coach, and knowing that Vrabel is going to be a better option than Bill, at least right now. Maybe 10 years ago, probably not, but right now I'm taking Vrabel.
I also want Vrabel, specifically for the fact that I think he will come in and change the culture right away. He'll actually hold players accountable and be vocal about it. Vrabel is like the ultimate players coach, guys in Tennessee. I mean, you saw what was a really bad Tennessee roster this past year. They fought hard every single game. Guys love him. And he's
when you're out of contention, and you have 4 wins and you're facing a team in your division who has to win, make the playoffs, and you absolutely just pummel them, says a lot about your character and about who your head coach is. I mean, they just went out there and just destroyed the Jags.
And they went on the road and beat the Dolphins in Miami, where they hadn't lost all season, and beat them on Monday Night Football. So, I mean, players coach, guys love him. Guys will die before quitting on him. And that's the kind of guy that I want as my head coach. He would come in and completely change the culture immediately. I don't think he would put up with a lot of the sideshow stuff that Garrett allowed and that Mike McCarthy has allowed. I think he would come in and set the tone, really just kind of change things. But don't know how well him and Jerry would get along. I know it's been a common thought. I think collectively as a podcast, we're all out on Belichick. I mean, he's going to be 1 years old. He's 20 years older than every current head coach that's in the playoffs right now, or than the oldest head coach that's remaining in the playoffs right now. So that's just food for thought as well. Wouldn't be surprised if we did something crazy and like went for Harbaugh, especially because there's a lot of smoke that he's not going back to Michigan. But we'll see. We can't really make any comments until a decision has been made. But I mean, as of right now, at the time of this recording, on the afternoon and early evening of Wednesday, January 17th, Mike McCarthy is still the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, and we all think that he'll be in for next year, whether that be for better or for worse. But with that being said, his offensive coordinator, Brian Schottenheimer, in or out next year?
That's also contingent on if Mike returns, he'll return.
Agreed.
Mike doesn't, there's no chance. So I think he comes back.
Okay.
Out.
Yeah. You think Schottenheimer out?
Out.
Okay, great feedback there.
Just
okay.
wait till every single guy you say. I know what I'm saying on each guy already.
Oh, okay. Okay, so we're gonna do that. Okay, gotcha. Offensive line coach Mike Solari. I think this is a collective out.
Bye.
Okay.
Out.
Yep. Quarterbacks coach Scott Tolzien.
Out.
I think this one
Yeah.
is contingent on McCarthy
Yeah,
because
this
he's a
is
McCarthy
also
guy.
yeah, very contingent, but I think he'll stay.
Yeah, for now we'll say in. Running backs coach Jeff Blasco.
I think he'll probably end up leaving.
I think out as well. Wide receiver coach Robert Prince. He's been with the organization for a while. I say in.
And
I think he's like pretty much regarded as one of the best receivers coaches in the league. Even though that Stu, go ahead, say it.
Out.
Okay. Tight end coach Lunda Wells.
sure.
I'd say in.
Out.
Like, why not? I mean, tight ends weren't the fault of this
Yeah.
football team this year.
Yeah, sure. Whatever.
This is where it gets tough.
Bye.
Peace.
See
See ya.
Dan
See
Quinn.
ya.
Collective
See ya.
out. Secondary coach Joe Witt Jr.
I keep him.
I think I would
Bye.
too. He's a veteran.
I keep him.
This one should be a no-brainer, and it might break Stu's mold here. Defensive back coach Al Harris.
In.
Okay.
Okay.
So we got one. It's just a bunch of new guys. Stu basically wants it to be like the Will Smith meme from like Full House or Fresh Prince of Bel-Air where he's like standing there in the room by himself. He just wants that to be Al Harris. Okay, defensive line coach Alan Durd, the British guy from Hard Knocks.
Go back to Britain.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Stu's in
I'm
for deportation.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm out. I'm out on this guy as well, Berkey.
Okay. Let me just ask, just because I'm curious, because I was undecided on this one. Why are you out? I know why Stu's out, but I'm curious to know why you're out.
I think our defensive line produces because they're talented, and I really haven't seen them be like a well coached up unit. I mean, they're lining up offsides in key games. They're doing just. I haven't seen them take a step as a collective group, but because we have Micah Parsons and like DeMarcus Lawrence, we're gonna get sacks and we're gonna get TFLs. But I think you can plug in another guy, and I want to see if he can help the group get to another level. But I think he might just be the product of having a really good unit rather than being a really good coach. And he had funny subtitles on Hard Knocks, and that's why people love him.
Yeah, and like the like italicized or like the British font on the sounds on the sideline.
I'm sorry, there's no chance a Brit is a better defensive line coach than like a Texan or someone from Bama. Like you can convince me that.
Okay. Well, that's good enough for me. I'll say out as well. Just because I don't really care enough to dive deeper into it. Okay, linebacker coach Scott McCurley. I feel like this should be a consensus out.
Out.
Yeah, bye.
The lack of progression from Damone Clark this year, that should be the nail in the coffin. Last one in terms of coaches here. This one's maybe a little bit tough, but I think I give special teams coach John Foster.
All I'm saying, the reason why I say he's out is because 2 games he allowed fake punts to be first downs, and he has Anger and Aubrey. Congratulations. Another product of your
and
can we stop
the worst
Sam Williams.
Can we stop seeing Sam Williams as a damn punt gunner? You think he's gonna stop a punt when it bounces inside the 5? You smoking rock?
I'm
There's no
so
chance.
sick of it. Okay, so that concludes the coaches section of In-N-Out. So moving into the next section here. So I tried to put the more difficult ones towards the bottom. So we'll start easy here. Sean McKeown. I mean, it feels like out. Does nothing.
Out.
This is the easiest one that we'll have all day. Safety Javon Curse.
Out. Bye-bye.
Out, and maybe see if we can get him deported with Alan Dirty, whatever his name is. This one could be tough. Cornerback Jordan Lewis.
Keep.
I would,
He's gonna be your
depending
slot
on
corner
the
next year.
price. Like, I'm not paying more than like what? Probably 3. I'll give him like a 1-year 3. Just bring him back again. I don't want to invest a lot of money into him.
Right.
He's probably pretty replaceable, but at the same time, like, if he comes back for a nice deal, I'll take him.
I don't think
Yeah.
I disagree. I don't think he's that replaceable. The way he finished out the season, coming off that Achilles injury, right? He balled out.
Oh,
I
he
mean,
had
at this point,
your favorite injuries name.
what is that?
Torn
Favorite
labrum?
injury? No,
Torn labrum?
no. The thing you texted in the group chat.
Oh, plantar fasciitis.
Yeah, he had that.
Is that what he
That's
did?
right.
All right. Well, he came back, balled out. There's a reason why I say this. We'll get to it a little bit. I mean, Deron Bland and Trayvon Diggs can be your outside corners next year.
Yeah.
I think if you're going to have those as your outside corners, I think you have to keep them.
I think I'm in on Lewis staying as well. I mean, he really saved this team's ass this year after Trayvon Diggs went down. So I think I would say in on Jordan Lewis for the right price. If he wants too much or wants a bigger role somewhere else, then let him walk. He's earned it. He's more than bided his time here. He came in 2017, I think. So I mean, he's been here for the long haul. So, if he wants to go, let him go. Let him flourish somewhere else. If you lose, wish him nothing but the best. Okay. Next up, defensive end Dante Fowler. I'd say out
Keep.
personally.
Yeah.
I would say keep if the price is right.
Okay.
He's a fine DN4, but if he wants an expanded role than that, see ya.
I also don't know how much keeping him would impact potentially giving more snaps to a guy like Sam Williams or Fahoko, who that's the other draft pick that I forgot to name, who didn't play a snap this whole year. He was injured, but still, even once he came back healthy, he didn't play. Next up is the product of the Kelvin Joseph trade. He did have the first touchdown of the season for the 2023 Dallas Cowboys, and that was basically the last time we heard his name. Noah
This was like so long
Igbinoghene,
ago.
right?
Yeah, bye-bye.
I'd say out as well.
Go get the league minimum somewhere else, bozo.
Next up, I think this one is pretty easy as well. Defensive tackle Neville Gallimore, out.
Bye.
Go coach at OU, bozo.
Next up, guy that we didn't see pretty much at all this year, but is a really good special teamer, defensive back / special teamer CJ Goodwin. I'd say out.
Sure. Whatever.
Yeah.
Next up, a guy that I think we're all
Bye-bye.
ready to see leave. Offensive tackle Chuma Edoga.
See ya,
Bye
bud.
bye.
Enjoy retirement.
Next, and this one might be the toughest decision on the list. A guy that we've talked at lengths about on this podcast, a guy that we're all, we've had our ups and downs with this guy. He plays the most important position on the field. That's right. You probably guessed it. Long snapper Trent Sieg.
Keep him.
I don't even know why I put him on here. Like who cares? I'd say keep him. Sure. I mean,
You don't
a lot
know
of
his
good
name,
snaps
so it's a
this
good
year.
sign.
Yeah, he had a lot of good
If you don't
snaps
know his
this year.
name,
I'd say
good
N.
sign.
I'd say
Yeah.
N. Okay, so the next couple, these are going to be the actual ones that like pretty much matter outside of Jordan Lewis. But first off, running back Rico Dowdle.
I keep him.
I think I would too.
He's not gonna ask for a lot of money, and I think he's a perfect complementary option to a number 1 running back.
Yeah, good in pass pro, change of pace. I'd say N. Stu, are you in?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good number 2 to Derek.
Yeah. Next up, I think we're all probably going to be thinking the same way. Running back Tony Pollard.
You call, we haul. See ya.
I'm out as well. Next up, this one, want to preface this by saying potentially might not even be an option with our salary
it won't
cap,
be.
but
It won't be.
cornerback Stephon Gilmore.
No,
Yeah, I could only
he won't.
imagine how slow his asses will be next year as well. So bye-bye. Out
Yeah.
because salary and probably slow.
And age. Yeah, agreed. Next up, defensive end / edge, Dorrance Armstrong.
He's gonna want a bigger role.
I think he is
mean,
too. I think
he
I think
had
he's
our
gone.
second most sacks, so he's gonna get
2 years
paid
in a row.
somewhere. Yeah, he's gonna get paid somewhere, and see ya.
Yeah. Okay, so last two, I'm gonna flip flop them here. First, center Tyler Biotish.
I bring
it's
back
nice.
100%.
Really?
Interesting.
I bring. He is the you watch a ball carrier get tackled down the field, and he is the first one there. He is the high effort guy. He also is kind of the guy that goes out. He's dealt with. We didn't hear Quinton Williams' name. We never heard Dexter Lawrence's name. He's dealt with some of the premier defensive linemen, defensive tackles, and specifically nose guards, and has done well. I understand we didn't run the ball a lot this year, but potentially losing Tyron or him, I at least ensure we still have the center, Dak's trust, being able to read a defense. I trust him in that more than I want to trust either a vet on a small contract or potentially a rookie. I trust him. The center, we just potentially just saw one of the best centers ever retire, and I could only imagine what the Eagles' offense is going to look like next year when Jalen Hurts has to make those calls and make those reads. Jason Kelsey can't because he's retired. So I'm in on him. High effort guy. He's a Cowboy, drafted a Cowboy. I keep him a Cowboy. That being said, I don't pay him a lot. Centers don't really get a lot of money, but I probably bring him back on like a 3 year deal.
That's my only issue is that he's going to want top. I mean, it's kind of funny to say, but top center money. Because he's a top 5 center in the league, top 5, top 7. I mean, he's going to coming off that rookie deal. He's going to want more money. And my whole thing is that depending on what we do this offseason, if we're going to pay CD and Micah this offseason, and you're going to pay Dak, I mean, can you afford him on whatever that top 5 center salary is? I want him back.
We're going to lose a bunch of depth guys. You just turn that over. Tyron Smith's he was like 18 against the cap this year. That's no longer a consideration. Stephon Gilmore's like 15, no longer under consideration. So we're, as much as we have to pay people out, we're not going to be like broke. Of course, like we're smoking rock if we think Dak's not going to get an extension to lessen the cap hurt this year. I mean, we're just stating the facts here. And
That's
you
fine.
want to go sign a premier like linebacker and risk being dog shit either at center or Tyler Biotish or Tyron Smith. It's one of the two. It's not going to be both of them. And I'd rather go for the young guy and draft a tackle where we wouldn't pay tackle premier money. We would pay center premier money because tackle premier money is probably double what center premier money is in this league. So I'd rather draft one and have one for 5 years under control than a center. And that's my argument.
My whole thing with Biotish. So I like him, just like Spanky said. He's Cowboys draft pick. We've really been able to watch him develop over these last couple of years, ever since we took him out of Wisconsin and made the jokes that he was Travis Frederick 2.0. He hasn't been. Just want to preface that. He's been good. He hasn't been great. And I feel that with this being the first time that he'll hit free agency, I think he's gonna want a good amount of money, which again, it's center money, not left tackle money, but it's still money that as of right now, this team doesn't have. And specifically with the deals that we're going to have lined up, I don't think it's as much cap coming out next year as we think, because I mean, depending on how Dak restructures his deal, as of right now, he has a $60 million or $59.5 million cap hit next year. So I don't want to go through all the cap hoops right now, just because I mean we could talk about that all day. But I think Biotish is gonna want like elite center money, and he's not an elite center. He's an above average center, certainly, but I'm not overly convinced that we don't have a guy on our roster in Brock Hoffman or potentially someone that we draft that could step in and be at least comparable to Biotish. So for that reason, I would say that I'm out on Biotish being back next year. That's just my thoughts. That's my counter argument for that. So moving into our last player here, and this is one that is going to be tough. He's been a Cowboy lifer. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. Um, he, I could see him coming back in the right scenario where he gives the team a sort of discount. But number 77, left tackle Tyron Smith.
I feel like he's gonna be. I feel like this is a delicate situation. I feel like we're gonna get him for like $3-4 million, and he's gonna be next man up as the tackle. I don't think he wants to play left tackle full time. Kind of, and the Cowboys are like, all right, like you can just practice, and we'll suit you up for playoffs type scenario where he gives us the hometown discount. That being said, any contending team is going to throw him a lot of money. So it's just kind of dependent on the numbers. But if I could bring him back for the discount or the price is right, I would. But that's not going to happen.
Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen with him. I think he's going one or the other with Biotish or Smith Tyron. That being said, you're still drafting a left tackle regardless in the first round, most likely, unless we trade up or trade down. I don't see it any other way.
Yeah. Smith, Tyron is one that's really tough just because I don't see him leaving the Cowboys to go take I mean, no one's giving him a long-term deal because of his age and injury history. But if a
He doesn't
team
practice during the week.
exactly, and I don't know how many teams out there except for the Cowboys would be inclined to throw someone that doesn't practice and you maybe squeeze like 12, 13 games out of in the regular season and pray he's healthy by the playoffs. I don't know how many teams out there would be willing to throw like a decent chunk of money. And I mean, he's pretty much mulling retirement almost every offseason, it seems like. If he wants to come back and put his body on the line again for a team that's probably not doing shit next year, I give all the credit in the world to him. I wouldn't do it personally. I would just take my bag and go retire and spend time with my family. But I'm also not 6'7" and a future first ballot Hall of Famer who wants to win a Super Bowl. So other than that, where me and Tyron Smith are pretty similar. So
You would definitely wear a knee brace on your arm as well.
oh yeah, for sure. I mean, my arms are massive. And so last one here. I want to preface this by saying he will be back next year. And I think we're all aware of that. I don't really see a way right now that he's not back, but I'm wondering about, and this is something that I brought up in our group chat the other day, so I wanted to bring this up now, just as our last thing. But what is so again, he will be back next year. Quarterback Dak Prescott. He will be a Dallas Cowboy in 2024. I don't really see a way that he's not. No one's going to take that contract and whatever extension we give him. Do you see a way in which we maybe give him like a short term, like 2-year extension, maybe 3 years at the most, like counting this upcoming season? So like 2 years on top, like 1 or 2 years on top. And we start looking to draft his successor? Or do you think that that guy's in the building and Trey Lance? Because there's a reason we traded for him. We don't know what it is
We're
yet, but there's a reason
we're
we traded for him.
100%. We're gonna 100% extend Dak just to move numbers around so we don't field like an XFL roster. Like that's gonna happen. We're gonna move money around. He's not gonna have a $59.5 million cap hit this year. We're gonna move money around. And I think Dak doesn't want to be in the spotlight of having $59.5 million cap hit on an underperforming Cowboys team. I'm not sure he wants that either. So as many people want to say he has all the leverage, it's like it does. I don't think he wants to have all that leverage and use that against the Cowboys. So just be ready to see a contract extension just so we can move money. And I mean, none of us have seen Trey Lance in the Cowboys offense yet. So, I mean, I hope it's Trey Lance. Will it be? Probably not, but I guess we'll see.
I think it's going to be the biggest signing bonus you'll ever see in the history of sports. And you're going to sign him. He's going to have no cap hit barely whatsoever. You're going to give him like a $40 million signing bonus, most likely, in my opinion, because that's what he's going to want. And that's if you extend him for 3, 4, 5 years. I think he's going to want that. Does he get it? I don't know. But I do think he is going to get a fat signing bonus.
Yeah. Yeah. And just a little fan fiction. This was just, how down bad, that I've been after watching that game this past weekend. But I'm holding out hope that, if we keep Dak for like 2 more years, I mean, probably won't win anything, but we'll see. There's always next year, right? But I'm holding out hope, especially after watching him torch us on Sunday, that maybe Trey Lance is Jordan Love 2.0, where he sits for way too long, like sits for all these years, and then when it's finally old man Dak, and then we ship him wherever, um, maybe Trey Lance is just ready to be the guy, and he's ripping like off platform, like back foot throws, and he's just awesome. And he's like nothing like we saw in San Francisco, and realizes his potential. That's my like biggest fantasy about our current quarterback situation, is that Trey Lance will take over as the starter in like 2 years, be like at that time probably like 26 years old, and he's ready to be the next guy for the Dallas Cowboys. But we'll see. That remains to be seen. But that concludes the In-N-Out section. Um, so I guess I just wanted to ask y'all one last time. Um, do we have any final cover zero takes that we want to get off?
Yeah, we're not going to win anything with this current core.
I don't even know if that's like a hot take.
Yeah, I don't think that is either. I got dose.
Okay.
First one is Bob Stoops hires Dan Quinn to be his DC for the Arlington Renegades, or whatever their name is in the XFL. And then my second one is Jordan Montgomery re-signs the Texas Rangers.
Okay, so he's already, see, ladies and gentlemen, he's already on a baseball season. Show him the shirt one more time. Just
happy
for
to.
everyone, yeah, for everyone that's listening,
That sexy beast.
that doesn't have the pleasure of viewing this right now, Stu is currently showing off his Corey Seager World Series MVP shirt. It's pretty awesome. Okay, and I think my final cover zero take of the season is that, um, unfortunately, I think this team, outside of defensive coordinator and the running back room, I think is going to look basically, and maybe like another like probably mid linebacker that we pick up in the offseason, like a Deion Jones, like bargain bin signing. I think this team is going to basically look exactly the same in 2024. And that sucks because I don't think that it's going to mean anything. Um, so that sucks. Kind of a downer there. But um, we did just want to let you guys know. So obviously now with the Cowboys season being over, we're going to be ending our podcasting for this season a little bit earlier than we had intended, just as the Cowboys did with their season as well. So we're going to be taking a little bit of a hiatus until after the Super Bowl. We're going to try to work on some things, see if we can get any, new software, and, some different things like that. Moving along for the podcast, take some time to, just take our mind off Cowboys football for a little bit. I think the three of us collectively need a mental health break. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to take that. So we'll be back sometime after the Super Bowl. Can't say exactly when, but just it should be sometime around like mid to late February, or late February being the latest. But we'll be back after the Super Bowl. And when we come back, we'll be doing, we'll be talking about the offseason, talking about free agency. We'll be doing a lot of draft content. And we're probably, I mean, we don't know for certain yet, but it'll probably be like we'll shift the pod into like one episode a week for the off season, just because there's not that much stuff to talk about. Now, if something crazy happens and it's like, Cowboys trade for Devontae Adams,
Do what we'll do breaking news podcasts.
Yeah,
we'll do
Or Jerry
Yeah,
Jones passes
yeah.
away, something like that.
Yeah, we'll do like emergency press conference, like Dave Portnoy style, like emergency press conference, emergency pod, that sort of thing. But we did want to take this time to plug our website, DallasBallersClub.com. Especially now as we move into the offseason, we're going to try to do some different things with that. We're going to try to implement some blogs, a lot of mock draft and player
Breaking
ranking
news.
content.
The Cowboys are keeping head coach Mike McCarthy for the 2024 season via Adam Schefter.
You're kidding. I can't believe that actually just happened on the pod.
Yeah.
Yeah,
3 minutes ago.
that moment of silence that you just heard from us after David said that was our moment of silence for the 2024 Dallas Cowboys. Who will not be winning anything. Let's just make that abundantly clear. Damn. I know so we weren't gonna curse, but damn. That's a tough live reaction. Well, that just puts the bow on top of this episode. Wow. Definitely putting that in the video title, live reaction to Mike McCarthy coming back. Wow. Wow. I mean, are you guys surprised? I'm not. I'm not. We literally did say it earlier on the podcast. But you know, there was just that little part of me that wanted to believe that for once Jerry Jones would make the right decision, especially with the talent in this year's head coaching pool. Damn. Well, that sucks.
If Dan Quinn is not, I mean, if he's back, then this whole thing is just an absolute shit show of a team. This team's in
If Dan
shambles.
Quinn comes back to next year, man, I'm like,
There's going to be no change. There's going to be zero change.
No, it would
You're going to
actually
keep
be kind
every
of awesome.
single person on roster. You're going to keep every single coach.
It would be kind of awesome if they did that. So it's just like a mental health year for us because we would have zero expectations. We would have zero expectations if they brought everyone.
It would be we're already the laughing stock in the NFL. We'd be even more of a laughing stock if just hire back Dan Quinn. Just everything stays the exact same.
Oh God. Okay. Bennett,
all right,
finish us off, Bennett.
Yeah.
All right, let's get out of here. I'm done.
Yeah. I think we got to call it on that. But as I was saying, God, what was I even saying? God, that just ruined me. Yeah, check out our website, mock drafts, blogs, draft content, player rankings, all that stuff. We're gonna be a lot more active trying to get that going. So please be sure to check that out, DallasBallersClub.com. As sorry, it's just funny. It's just funny. Sorry, that was a meme of a quote tweet on Twitter that had that Schefter announcement about McCarthy coming back with the graphic that the Dallas Cowboys are already eliminated for next year, which is true, unfortunately. But yeah, check out the website, DallasBallersClub.com. As always, we are available to listen for free on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. I'm actually kind of glad that we got.
I need the Jersey Jerry video.
I'm honestly kind of glad. Yeah, I'm honestly kind of glad that we got that live reaction in because that's awesome content. So we'll be pumping that out. But yeah, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, X and TikTok at Dallas BC Pod. We're gonna be pretty active on there now. Don't have any football to look forward to, so we'll be on there. Instagram at Dallas BC Podcast. Email us, especially in the offseason, if you got any ideas, you want to appear on the show, sponsorships, inquiries, things of that nature, podcasttbc@gmail.com. And again, please check out our website, dallasballersclub.com. That's going to be, outside of our social media sites, the best place to keep up with us this off season. And as always, thank you guys so much for joining us, not only today, but this season as a whole. This was our first NFL season of the Dallas Ballers Club. We had some ups, we had some downs. We had some key absences at some points of the year. I'm not going to point any fingers there, but here's to the off season. And I guess because we're insane and delusional Dallas Cowboys fans, we'll be back here
12 wins.
in a couple of weeks, and we'll do it all again next year, just like the Cowboys do. So, with that being said, this is Burke, Spanky, and Stu signing off for one last time for the 2023 NFL season.
Boom.